Boom. All right. TJ Knudson. What's up, dude?
What's going on, man? Thanks for having me.
Hey, so I ran across you randomly on LinkedIn, and then realized, you got a pretty good following. You got like over 5,000 followers.
Mhm.
It looks like you do your own podcast as well. Is that true?
Yeah, yeah. We actually took a little bit of a break on the podcast, and we're gonna kind of
Hmm.
revamp it a little bit and come back out. We started that in July of 2020, and slowed down there right at I think right at the beginning of the year. So we're gonna have a couple new people involved in it and a new platform and whatnot. So that should be going out here pretty soon.
Cool. So are you putting, is it the same name? What was the name of it?
Hold my beer. We're talking freight. And
Okay,
we'll actually
cool.
probably go with I think we're going to go with a different name and everything. So it should be pretty cool.
So a rebranding of the podcast.
Yep.
Cool, man. So, how'd you get into logistics? I was looking back through your stuff, and I kind of want to touch on a little bit the strength conditioning aspect too, because I'm really big into that.
Mhm.
But how'd you get into logistics?
Well, in would have been 2015, I believe it was. I was doing sales, doing stuff in finance and insurance. After I got out of the strength conditioning stuff, and was traveling around a lot, had a pretty big territory that I had to cover. And we had just had our first child, and was wanting to basically, utilize my sales skills and whatnot, but in a more of an office atmosphere with less traveling every day. And one of my buddies that I went to Ball State with, he worked for TQL in the Indy office since right out of college. So it'd been, 10 years at that point. So I met with him. He was starting the Fort Wayne office for TQL, and basically we met and talked. And he said, it's a good field to get into. He said, I don't know, with the way we do things and how we hire and whatnot. I think, he's like, I'd hire you, but if I were you, I'd look for maybe more of an asset based company. Something that you could do a little bit more with. And so I found Circle Logistics that time, and showed up to interview and came in as just like a basic sales rep. Had to really swallow my pride. Not even tell my wife like what my salary was to start.
Right.
And just to get it done. And it was just, at that point, 10 of us probably, a couple billing people. And I don't know, it just took off from there. We were dealing mostly assets in the Fort Wayne office. Chicago office was doing the brokerage, but then as 2018 hit, we did more of a sales push. And with the expedites and whatnot, we got a lot more into the brokerage side of things, helping customers and whatnot. And there was four of us basically that really kind of took that challenge on, brought on a lot of customers. We're doing really well with the customers that we had, and just kind of went from there. And so it was a really cool thing. As we grew, we needed a new office. We did a restructure. One of the four was named VP. Three of us then were named directors. And at that time, we came from a cradle to grave model, so we were kind of doing it all. Everything. From landing the customer to building the load, covering the load, helping build the load, track the load, and then when we moved to the new building and whatnot, we help find the new building, help do all that type of thing, and developed a carrier sales team, account management team, tracking team, all that good stuff. And I was involved in that. I first helped start the carrier sales team and develop SOPs and all the processes, and then same thing with account management. And so I've kind of been all around. Again, like I said, I started with assets, dispatching, all that stuff, kind of was running that side of things for a while, then did this. And then I'd say it would have been in the beginning of COVID. So the beginning of 2020, I went over and took over again as director of ops on the asset side. Try to get that back up to speed because we were so focused on brokerage and whatnot, and did a good job there. And then became director of regional development. Basically, that was, as COVID hit, we were able to bring people on remote, did a really good job of that, and find some talent. And so my job was build offices, satellite offices around them with existing my book, help them build their own book, and get to where they're, brick and mortar and office as well. So Then after that, I was wearing a lot of hats, doing a lot of things. Started talking and working with some people, and found this opportunity at Hoosier. And it was basically to start my own office here in Fort Wayne. And with the resources and the people and everything they've got, it was a no-brainer. So it's been a fun ride since then, and we've grown tremendously just in 1 quarter of work here.
So you guys have only been in business for a quarter
The Fort Wayne office.
at Hoosier? Wow. Okay. So you
Hoosier's been in business for a while here, but Fort Wayne, I started Fort Wayne office January 1st.
So how many offices do you have through Hoosier?
We got Indianapolis is the headquarters. We got Fort Wayne here, and we got Dallas.
Cool. So how many people total do you think?
Oh God, I don't want to say the wrong number, but in the hundreds, maybe. Probably
Awesome.
pushing 200.
Cool. So how's the Fort Wayne office doing? You just started up. How many people you got there?
Came in January 1st. Again, I had non-compete, so I had to kind of dance around that and make sure I did what I was supposed to do there. But came in, it was just me starting this thing up, man, and we're up to 7 people. Quite a few accounts. Our team even last month was leading some of the other teams within the company here, and so it's been a good. I've been able to bring in people that are quality, people that I've known in the industry before. That was one big thing why they wanted me to kind of take it and roll with it, just because of the connections I had in Fort Wayne, and then also just within the industry. So it's been a cool thing to see everybody come together in this office, this culture. It's all about freight. I mean, that's what we're all about. Not only landing new accounts, bringing them in, but also taking care of what we got and being the best and setting examples.
Hey man, freight is king, right? In our business,
Yep.
you gotta have freight before you can do anything else. Well, hey, let's backtrack a little bit just to get a little personal. So I'm looking at your profile and it says you did strength conditioning as a coach. So talk briefly on that a little bit.
So my degree is actually in sports medicine, and then went to UC for physical therapy. When I got out of college, the job market wasn't great, but I was able to find a great company, Catalyst Fitness, and basically it was a private personal training company that was basically it was attached to a racket club. So the clients that we had were very it was very one-on-one. A lot of the CEOs, a lot of the higher ups in this Fort Wayne area were there doing things, and what they found and what I found was that physical therapy only covers so many sessions, right, on insurance. And there's a lot of people that wanted to do things, wanted to continue to be active and do fitness, but had knee injuries or hips or whatever it was, depending on the age. And so I started the Next Step program, and basically took them in and did adaptive exercises and stuff to keep them where they need to be. My dad was a coach and has been forever, so he brought me on to strength conditioning there. Pete Kemp, who now works here with me here, was head coach up at DeKalb for football. I went in and did put together a strength program for him, and took that on as well. And so it's something I've always been involved in, and something I've always loved to do. So it's I've always kind of stuck around it and helped people out from that standpoint. But as I got more and more into the industry, I only had so much time to do what I was doing.
Right.
So.
No, it's a huge passion of mine too. So I played college football. Did you play any sports?
Yeah.
In college? Would you play?
Football.
Awesome.
Well,
Okay.
I went in college. I went for football, but played baseball and football all the way through high school.
Cool, man. Yeah, so we kind of share a similar background, did the same thing. I mean, sports is huge for me also. You've been able to kind of like take a lot from sports and push it into logistics, which I had no clue what logistics was going into or coming out of college anyways. So it's just kind of cool to see 2 people with the same kind of careers, because you jumped in 2014, which is exactly when I jumped in as well to logistics. You just had a couple more years on me as far as like getting out to the real working world. Why'd you jump out of strength conditioning? I can tell you why I didn't pursue it, but why did you jump out?
Well, what I found was I had a growing family, and for me, at least in the position I was in, I was only paid per session,
Gotcha.
and it was good per session, right? But you can only have so many sessions per week, and I maxed that out to
So
the
much
point
time.
what's that?
So you only got so much time, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so I maxed that out to the point where, I was working, quite a bit, again, the growing family, whatnot. And I knew the relationships I had made, the way I was able to build my client base and, coach and teach and, build those relationships, marketing, all that stuff, that I could utilize that in a way in which I didn't have to dedicate an hour to each client I had in each day, because you can only fill up so much. And so I just wanted to scale that out. I found I just happened to have a buddy that ran a Fort Wayne office here for, finance and insurance, got into that. Wasn't necessarily my, I'm probably going to, I'm going to be good at whatever I take on. However, it wasn't necessarily something I was passionate about really at all, and didn't even know anything about logistics either. But once I got in, I got good at it and realized how much, like you said, I could take, what I've learned from sports, what I've learned from even in sports medicine, and work in the athletic training side. You got to be able to come in, have a calm head, evaluate the situation, put out fires, take control of a situation and evaluate correctly. And that's one thing that I've always done well in this industry. So it's been something that I think you find anybody, once they're good at it, it's addicting and you stick with it. And I never would have guessed the path that I got. I got very lucky at the time I came in. I was blessed with what I've been given. If anybody else probably, that had, a good skill set would have came in when I did, they would have had the same path. I just got lucky and I just said I was going to take everything I can from it. So.
Me too, man. Same thing. The reason I got out of not wanting to do strength conditioning was strictly just based off the money and the hours. So if you look at like one of my favorite coaches in college, Scott Brinks, he was our strength coach because we were with him all the time. And it's just, I saw all the hours that he was putting into it. And it was like, man, if you really don't catch a good break and get like a big D1 school, or if you get like a pro job, or if you don't get like a real big, like private institute, like a D1 or something like that, you really don't get a chance to make a lot of money for the effort that you're putting in unless you're just, that big on helping develop kids. But, so with me, I was like, I got to jump into something else, found logistics, and here we are. But, so kind of same story. So after seeing your profile, I just thought it was kind of cool that we kind of shared the same background. Now you're obviously done a bunch in sales, even when you were out of logistics coming in. So you said you'd be good at whatever you want to do. The confidence there comes from sports background. The confidence comes from preparing, obviously. So what were some of your tips coming in real early to have success in sales in logistics when you didn't necessarily know what you were selling? I know you said that you did the asset side, so that helps a little bit, being able to sell like an actual truck, because we all know, we hear not bringing on any brokers, right? So you're not having that objection. So that could have been a lot easier. So what are your sales techniques and tips getting into the business?
When I got in, it was really just about making touches, and I went from having to find leads and buy leads or whatever it was to having all these leads right here in front of me. When you start with a smaller company, you've got a lot of them right there. And so I've always been able to talk to people and whatnot. And when it started off, it was mainly, one of those things where it was like, hey, once you make contact, you say, hey, my owner's going to be up, because at that point in time, and really all the way up through, our owners were right there. I was always able to go into their office and get tips and whatnot. But it was like, hey, my owner's going to be in your area. He'd love to stop by and meet on this day. Are you available? And then, as that went, he would include us in some of those. And then it would be, hey, my owner and so it was very big on like in-person meetings, is how a lot of these, big ones that I landed off the bat. It was, hey, my owner and myself are going to be in the area. Can we stop by? And then as I got in these meetings and had these talks and listened to these conversations and understand our operation more and what we can and can't do, I've always been a sponge. And next thing you know, it was, hey, I'm going to be in your area. Can I swing by? Can we sit down and talk? And so there was times that, you got to do what you got to do. And I followed up this one big company that I had brought on over there, and followed up. And one morning I was at that time still booking freight and moving, working with accounts and moving freight. And I just happened to email them and say, hey, I'm going to be in your area this afternoon. Is there any chance you could meet? And these guys would not get back with me at all. I knew I had the decision maker, and out of nowhere, it's just like, yeah, actually 3:00 today works. And I'm like, oh, he called me out. I'm like, oh, all right,
There you go.
I'll see you there. So it's 11:30. This is about a 3-hour drive. So I just ran into my owner's office, said, hey, I got to go to Detroit. And he's like, what? And I'm like, hey, I got this, account that he wants to meet at 3. He's like, all right, go get, so I had to go run through the house, grab a button up to put on, and got there right at 3. Sat down, met with him. He ended up being a guy that actually oversaw another account as well. So I got 2 put on that day and ran with it. And that right there, I think, gives you confidence. You sit in these big boardrooms, you talk with these people, what objections they're going to say, what they're not going to say. And I was just very real about things, and, our communication and our follow-up, was always there. And so it just grew from there. It got to the point where I felt like, and I mean, I feel like it now too, where, I got to where it was like, if there's an account that I want, I can go get it. I can figure out a way to get in and find it. And it's that confidence, I think, and, knowing that sometimes it takes a little bit longer. But as long as you've got your pipeline full and your feelers are out there and you're casting big enough nets, you'll always be able to pull something in.
Yeah, so you nailed it. You got to keep your pipeline full, right? Probably the biggest thing we see with salespeople is they start out good. They maybe get 25, 50 leads, and then they start calling them, and then they don't get anything, and then they just keep calling them. They don't get anything, and they keep calling them to kind of just fill their, I guess, their data entries or their CRMs to make it look like they're working. Do you have any of that with your people or people that you've worked with in the past? Like, as a manager, as a director of people in sales, I know it's a little bit easier for us guys to come from an athletic background to be confident, to always want to keep going, set the bar high, try to keep beating ourselves, try to get more accounts, get more money. But then we get to a point where we have to start managing people. So how did you transition to that, to be able to try to instill your work ethic into other people in sales?
Well, one thing I did was lead by example. So as I was doing it, I was still landing accounts. I'd still go on these meetings. I'd still go here and there. They'd see me flying to Dallas. They'd see me flying here or there. I made it something that they wanted to do. And I broke it down to where, it was easier than what they actually thought. And I also did the same thing, as in, like, hey, if you get through and you break through or whatever, get me involved in it. I'll jump in. You can see, add me in the email chain, whatever it is. And you can see kind of how I approach them from that standpoint. But, I've always been big on strategic sales. And so I know that there's a lot of, there's a lot of structures in which you bring people in, you tell them to make, a ton of calls and this and that, but it's very generic. And it's just a bunch of dogs chasing a mailman. And when they get them, they don't know what to do with them. So, everything that I've done, and if I could tell anybody to do anything, differently, is go after what you're good at, what you know. So every one of the biggest accounts that I've been able to land, I've actually been in operations doing something, and I knew what I was good at. I knew accounts that were like them, that, customers that did the same type of thing they did, that shipped either the same product, the same way, the same mode, from the same area, geographical footprints, whatever it is. And I was able to use that to leverage my way. It was not a generic email. It wasn't a generic call. It was, hey, I've already got a ton of experience with this person and this person, with this account and this account. I know what they require, what they do. I've got a big network that I've been able to build around them. I'd love to be able to utilize that with you guys. I know you probably struggle with this, and this is something that we can bring to the table. Let's see where we fit. And that's always been a good way to get in and move things forward. So, I try to get other people to do the same thing. And I'd rather have, to be honest with you, I'd rather see somebody do 10 solid sales calls in a day. I hate saying that, but each one taking a lot of research, and rather than 100 of them that don't have any backing to them. So, but when you do that and you get that first net out there, you give yourself a little bit more time to build that base of, now you've got 100 leads that each one of them were approached in a certain way, and you've got a lot better landing percentage from that standpoint.
Yeah, so you nailed it. I preach, quality over quantity. Until there is no quality, there must be quantity.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what I preach. If you can have 10 to 20 good conversations a day, hey man, go do it. I'm not going to bite your head off of that. But if you can't have any good conversations, I would like for you at least to be trying real hard all day. That's kind of the game plan we roll with over here as well. So how would you start out with somebody? Because a lot of people are getting into freight brokering. This is a booming industry when it comes to logistics, transportation, freight brokering, whatever it is. And salespeople, I think, are some of the most important people. And you said you come from operations. So I think some of the best salespeople are operators, because they know exactly what it is that they're doing. So it's easier to sell a service that way.
Yep.
How would you train people that are coming in day one? What are you doing? Do you guys do training? Did you go through training? How'd that process work?
Yeah. So the nice part was, I guess as I went, we always had a big sales team. We always increased that. And so I think you always have those, those people that come in that are fresh, that are just making those calls, right? I mean, there's got to be quantity there, and because you're going to hit somebody that just needs help and is going to hit back. But as I've went, I've been able to be a little more selective on who I work with, how I work with them. People, you could tell who people that are really wanting to do it. They'll kind of cling to me a little bit, and feed off that. But it's a different way of doing things, and looking at it. But it's having that. I would say if you could, and I've always said this, if I had full control, and I mean I do now, but leading up to this, it would be, hey, get them on an account. Either get them on an account or over there sitting with somebody that does, and have them have an idea of how our TMS works, how our what loads we're booking, where we're booking them, and get them in there. And if anything, what I would do is I'd bring them over with me. That way they could see what I had pulled up, because I had everything. So you could sit with an account manager and you're going to see what they have on their board, right? You're going to see what they're working or whatnot. But I want them to see all the different stuff that we're doing, because that's what I had pulled up, right? All the different accounts, all the different ways of doing things, the different people that are doing it certain ways, what we can offer, what we're doing flatbed wise, drive in wise, expedite wise, whatever it is. Give them an idea of what they're going. And what you'll do is you'll actually start to have conversations with these people, and they'll say, oh, well, actually my dad works in something like this, or my friend does this type of thing. And you start to see it, and they kind of catch on a little bit, and they'll kind of take you to where you could tell they maybe feel comfortable. I feel like if you just throw them in there and tell them to do this, they're just going to do something. But you'd be surprised how many people have no logistics background, but do know a little bit about something specific within what you're doing, and let them kind of run with that, and get some leads within there, and tell them how to approach things and how to approach their dad or their uncle or their friend, and learn a little bit more. But it's really just instilling in them that constant head on a swivel. I mean, it's just constant. You're always, ear to the ground, looking for opportunities. I don't care if I'm having a beer. I don't care where I'm at. My wife always got mad at me. We'd be driving, and I'd be like, "Are those drop trailers over there? What's the name on the side of it?" And she's like, I don't care.
I'm with you on that.
We're running late. I don't care, Or if we were out and somebody brought up something about that, about logistics or whatever, I said, "Oh, really? What are you doing?" She'd be like, "Oh my God, here we go." Yeah. And so that's just the mindset I think you always have, because it's not just about like, landing a new account or whatever, but it's something that you actually love, like something you're really interested in learning. Yeah. That's why I got in the podcast. It's why I got into the industry and networking and whatnot, is because, I'm surrounding myself with people that are better than me in certain areas, people that do something different. And every podcast, every time I meet with somebody at a conference or even online at LinkedIn, whatever it is, I'm learning something new. And sometimes when you have those conversations, you don't realize that sometimes you're teaching them something new and you're not even trying to. So I think it's something that you got to get involved in if you're new to it. And as a manager, if you're sitting down having conversations with these people and you're showing them what all you can do, stuff will pop up and you'll have ideas and things that you can gear towards each one of them to make sure they have success. And that plays into the retention.
Hey, man, we can all learn from each other. In this industry, I think a lot of people want to try to keep their information tight and not share it. And, hey, if you work over here, you can't work over there, and don't talk to those people, even if you were friends prior. In Chattanooga, we have a big logistics area. Like there's a bunch of brokerages, a bunch of transportation companies. We have a lot of stuff happening here in the scenic city. And, some companies get upset because if one person goes over to another company, they're like, hey, you can't talk to them no more. And it's like, I can't talk to them anymore. That's my friend. So I can't talk to my friend. So there's a lot of that going on. And I come from a background where I'm like, if we all get together and we all start helping each other and start educating each other, first, it makes every company better. So it helps out the shippers, right? That's our goal. Our goal is to help out people shipping freight, manufacturing freight. And it's just going to make us all more educated and just better at our jobs. And it increases competition. As athletes, we want competition. We want to compete with ourselves. We want to compete with the person next door. But we also want to give them some credit when they do some things good. So do y'all have that up there in Fort Wayne, to where some companies just don't want you a little tight-lipped, don't want you talking to anybody?
Well, yeah, you do. And I think we're not as big of a freight area. We've always been real big in asset companies in this area, just because of being the crossroads and whatnot. But as these new brokerages pop up, you have that. For me, it's never been an issue. I mean, I'll tell you everybody I've got, every customer I've got, and everything, because you're not going to outwork me. I mean, I'm confident enough in my relationships that like I'll tell you who it is, and good luck. I mean, you're not going to go, but at the same time, I go to conferences, I talk with people outside the industry, not just in Fort Wayne, but like, that's why expanding my network, nationwide and all the people I talk to is cool, because I make friends. And then we sit down and say, hey, listen, I've got this account here. Like, I know that you specialize in this, and I can get you the contact to this guy and get you set up because I know it's not going to touch, it's not going to put a dent in what I'm doing, right?
Sure.
And they're saying, hey, exactly, hey, I'm working with these guys right here, and they say they needed help in this area, and that's what you do. I'll hook you up with them, and so like I have no problem doing that because it makes me look better to my customer because I'm giving them another option somewhere, and I'm already vouching for that person, and something I may not even do, and then vice versa for them. And so for me, it's like, hey, I'm going to be able to get what I can get. Yes, I'm going to be able to, maybe introduce somebody to somebody, but at the end of the day, it's like, it's either that or I don't get it at all. But you have to do it right. You can't do that type of thing. And then, go back on what you said or whatever it is. I mean, if you've got some ethics, and you've got some good friends in the industry, you can make those things happen, but it's all just about whether you're doing it right. If you feel you're not doing it correctly and you feel like, you're not, confident in how you're doing things, then yes, I would hide all my stuff and I wouldn't let anybody have anything or talk or whatever it is. But if you don't feel that way, then you don't feel threatened at all. And I think you just kind of move forward that way.
Well, and you talked on that you came from a non-compete situation, right? Or you might even be in a non-compete situation. And you see there's a bunch of companies, mainly some around my parts of town, that are kind of going after people that are, going after people with non-competes, saying we don't need them in the industry. And I agree. I also agree that the non-solicit should be, less of a big deal as what it is because of what you said. And what you said was, I'll tell you every customer I got, every contact I got, and good luck. If you can go get them, good on you. But I doubt that you can get them because my relationship is that good with that customer. I think that should be the case in the industry as a whole. I mean, there's a bunch of pop-up brokerages, a bunch of pop-up companies. I mean, anybody can get an MC and go get a broker authorization and do whatever they want to for the most part. So these non-competes and non-solicits, I don't think they really matter. We need to kind of get rid of them as a whole and let people start focusing on relationships. And if these big companies think, hey, man, this is my customer, then keep that customer. Keep that customer because it is a relationship, not because of, somebody came over, got lucky, landed it, and now you just want to keep it because it's your property, right? That's not a good message to send to people. So I loved what you said there, and it stems from confidence. I think a lot of companies that, have these non-competes and have these non-solicits probably weren't athletes at one time because they're a little bit insecure with their ability to keep something because their confidence might be a little bit low in that regard. Is that something you kind of agree with or disagree with?
Yeah, I would say I'd say there's a place for them. There really is, because I think if you look at it and somebody like, say, in my position, like, so maybe there's an account over there that, like, the only reason they're even with the company I was with previously is because of me, right? And so when I leave, I think there's a little bit of a, hey, you're gonna be take business with you, and that person may just leave what that previous company, come and work with me. So I think the biggest thing is that they're in order to cover yourself as a company, I think you got to have them. I think they're very generic, but I think there needs to be something in there that's explained and that needs done, like what I did. Now, listen, I grew up with this company, right? So like I started from scratch with them. So the owners I know well, everybody there I know well. And so we were able to have a good conversation about things, respect it, and just say, hey, this is what, these are some core companies I don't want you going after. It makes sense, doesn't it? Right. Okay. But, these ones are fine. This is fine. This is fine. This is what you can do. And I'm saying, hey, all right, to start this up, I got to be able to do this, but I won't do this. Right. And if you can have those conversations and you can, talk, with them about that, I think there's a lot less of the, what is this person doing? Because I think that's what it is. If they just go off the radar and then you don't ever hear from them, you're going, what are they doing? What are they out there doing? What's going on here? And they want to have that. But if it's just straight up forward, anything like that, what's important to you that you don't want me going after, what's important to me that I'd like to go after, and you have those conversations, I think those types of things, help tremendously. But I think it's got to be up front. I think it's got to be a, hey, once this happens, this is what we'll look at and go through. And if you have those conversations and actually take the time to do it, you don't got to worry about people leaving and doing things because they'll respect you just from that standpoint.
Exactly. I think we share some common view there. My thing on it is, say you have a customer, you bring on a customer, and it wasn't there prior to the company being there, or the company was there before this customer came, whatever it is. But you're the reason why the customer is there because of your relationship. You've moved the freight. It's a big cradle to the grave opportunity. That's your deal. When you go to leave, that company might want to keep that customer or keep you from contacting that customer. I think that's your customer. Now I get it. You got the opportunity from the company, right? That's big. They took the risk. That's you didn't, right? That's big. But also you're the reason why that customer was even there. I think it also comes down to the customer's response. Like, does the customer want to go with you, or does the customer want to stay with said company, or both?
Mhm.
I think the customer needs to be involved in the conversation as well, because it's just as up to them as it is, to the company or to the individual of who they want to actually work with based off of relationships. But at the end of the day, like you said, it doesn't need to be generic. It needs to be less black and white and more gray per instance of
Yeah.
each individual person. So, maybe you can come to an agreement that, hey, I'm not going to touch any house accounts that were there prior to me being there. I will not touch one, but I will be contacting the people that I brought on since I've been here.
Mhm.
I think that's the most fair way to do any of this in the industry.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, and again, when it comes down to the conversations, I wouldn't necessarily say you want the customer involved in it. I think they got a lot more to worry about than a non-compete situation between you and your past company. But I think what it does is, I think you're right. I mean, there's got to be some leeway, as in, hey, I've talked to them, and you go back to your customer, say, they're saying they want to work with me. That's probably a given. However, I'd like to pursue that, but if there's respect there and there's conversations going on, you could go to them and say, but I'm going to tell them to, if I can pursue this, I have no problem to say, hey, stay on with you guys, because what that'll do is like, hey, that way, if you guys, at the end of the day, if you guys can end up offering better resources, if you guys end up offering better service, whatever it is, then they should have that choice. Right. But they obviously want to work with me. And so let's just, I'll make sure that they know that, hey, listen, hey, stick with this company as well. Don't leave them for good. That's kind of part of our agreement here. You know how it works, and blah, blah, blah. And then whoever does better or whatever. And a lot of times there's so much freight there that it ends up not making a difference. But, I think that, again, those are things that you gotta, if you can do it respectfully and you can do it the right way. There are some companies that aren't going to want to, even entertain that. But if you're in a position in which you can, I'd say take advantage of that, because it keeps your name in the industry good. It keeps your relationship with them good. And it just keeps, because down the line, especially if you advance or whatever it is, you may run into that with that company again, whether it's an employee, whether it's whatever it is, if you've got some sort of respect and some sort of mutual conversation going on, you can always work through those issues. But if you burn that bridge right off the bat, I feel like you're just setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah, can't burn bridges. That's big. You can't do that. You gotta. This is a very small but yet large industry. It seems like everybody kind of figures out a way to know each other, know of each other, if not know each other from afar.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, what would you say the biggest way to network is in this logistics space? You said you're big on networking, but you got big into the podcasting because you're a fan of it.
Mm-hmm.
So how are you networking? Is it LinkedIn? Is it events and conferences? What is it?
Well, it all started through LinkedIn. It all started through LinkedIn. I mean, I was, good friends with Cassandra Gaines and got on when she started her show and got my take out there. But I found that if you're out there and you're seeing, and there's a lot of people that follow people on LinkedIn and they hear their content and they listen to stuff. But if you're liking and responding to those things and giving your insight, those conversations start. I don't know how many times like somebody's put a post out and I've come in and I put my little two cents in there or whatever it is, and then I get a message from, hey man, I thought that's a great idea, or great idea, or a great way to follow up on that, or whatever. Now you've got somebody you're talking to, and at the same time, then now I'm tagging them in my posts, and you're putting out a specific type of content that you're good at, that you're going to see on a day-to-day basis. I think you got to stay involved in it. Sitting down and just coming up with something is kind of hard. Almost everything I put out is something I ran into that day. So if I'm sitting there and I'm like, man, I ran into this day, I talked to one of my guys. They're like, man, that was actually really good. I'm on my way home and I'm thinking about it. And I'm like, man, this would be a good post. And it doesn't have to be too intricate. Don't try to make it over, anything like that. The weirdest part was that, after 2020 and the LinkedIn kind of slowed down, I kind of stopped posting. But I had people, because it was very basic stuff, but I had people reach out to me and be like, hey, man, like I know you haven't been posting. I'm really following your stuff. Really liking what you've been doing. And so I was thinking to myself, like, it's fairly basic, but those are the people that are following you. Those are the people that are listening. And when you get people that are like-minded, and understand things, and there's networking going on, or they like your post or see your content and ask you to come on a podcast, right? I mean, like those are things that happen if you're out there, but you got to be out there. You got to be involved in people. You got to know, and interacting, see who's interacting with who, try to get in with them. And there's so many different opportunities that open up because of that.
Sure, it's a game, right? A lot of people stay away from LinkedIn because they think it's just professional. I mean, I look at LinkedIn like I look at any other social media platform. I'm not going to change the way I talk on LinkedIn just because I'm supposed to be professional. I don't even know what professional means really these days. So I just started hammering out a bunch of content, man. I have a podcast I do anyways, Chat with Gunner. So we started doing it on LinkedIn, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to take this opportunity to go out and find people that are like-minded, find people that are in the position that I'm in, find people that are in logistics, in sales, and just start having conversations with them on a daily basis and building up that network and going from there. And I saw that you were doing a good job of it. And obviously you got your own podcast and doing your own thing, and you're very successful in your own right. We kind of cross paths with the way we kind of do things in the previous years. But, I think it's really cool that you're doing what you're doing. I think that you're a great speaker, man. You obviously know what you're talking about. You can tell that you've been on a podcast, you've ran a podcast, because some people get on here and they freeze up a little bit. So kudos to you for not doing that. I do have to ask, I have my own moniker and we'll get to it, but like you have the hashtag handle it. So can you dive into that a little bit?
Everybody always asks me about that. So when I first started going from the cradle grade, when I first got promoted to overseeing the team, there was a lot, and there was a lot going on. And what I ran into was the training, right? Finding a way to get everybody trained up and where they need to be. And there's just almost not enough time because you're still kind of involved in everything and trying to make sure you got, your own numbers where they need to be. And so, what I found was, I went through the fire, I got thrown into the fire, and that's just how it was because of the size we were. And I learned a ton from it. I mean, there've been so many different situations and handled so many different things that a lot of the times I didn't have anybody to go to, or they weren't available. And I just had to figure it out. I just had to handle it. And what I found was that as people came in and they relied on me a lot, they would come to me for things that they knew how to do, but they knew if they asked me, I'd do it for them. And so it finally got to the point where, I finally just came up with a handle thing. And so, they'd come to my desk and they'd say, hey, TJ, this is going on. What do I do with this? And so I'm busy, right? I'm thinking, all right, I can vet it, the situation in my head. I kind of know what's going on. They've told me, and I'll just tell them to go handle it. I just say, you go handle it. And, I had this like handle it. So from the old office, I took the handle from the conference room door. It fell off or something like that. So I took it and put handle it on it. And so when somebody came over, I gave it to them. I told them to go handle it. And I said, but when you're done, I want you to come back and tell me what you did. Right. Yeah. Now, if it was a situation which I knew I probably should jump in, I would. But a lot of these times I'm like, you could do this. I'm like, but I want you to come back and I want you to tell me what you did. And 9 times out of 10, they came back all fired up. Oh, I sent an email out. I thought this, so I did this and I sent this, and sure enough, this happened, this and that. I'm like, see, there you go. Right. And then, as people were there, I always had a floor desk, even when I had an office, like I made it like a community office. Even now it's like, you guys come in whenever you want, use it, because I'm on the floor. I got to be out there. So I'd make sure people involved, they saw how it went, and it just became a thing. It became like a thing in the group. So somebody come over and ask me a question, and somebody sitting next to me be like, go handle it. You can handle that. Like it just was like a thing, like we're going to handle it and we're going to do it this way. And even with my customers, as an account manager, like they knew when a customer called me and said, I was on lunch or whatever, and said, hey, TJ, this truck hasn't showed up yet. I didn't like dance around it or anything. I said, what do you mean it hasn't showed up yet? They're like, yeah, your truck that you said you were going to be here by noon hasn't showed up yet. I'm like, all right, give me a second, I'll call you back. And so, I just took it on as like I was upset, like I'm going to handle this right now. And they almost had this whole thing where like, did you just go into handle it mode? I'm like, I just went into handle it mode. I called him. This is where he's at. This is not how we do things. I'm telling you, he's got to have better communication next time, but I'm on top of this, And they liked that. And I think it's something that in this industry, you see too much of, putting it on somebody else's shoulders, having them do it for you. But when you go out and you could do it yourself, the confidence that you get from that it's crazy.
Sure. And I don't know if you're a big reader or not, but Jocko Willink. So, he's always talking about extreme ownership. You got to take extreme ownership on everything you do. That's exactly what you're talking about in the handle it situation. So hey, man, that's really good stuff.
Mhm.
Well, hey, so what's the plans for Hoosiers Logistics moving forward? You guys trying to grow the Fort Wayne office? You guys hiring? What's the deal?
Yeah, oh yeah, we're always hiring here. We're trying to be strategic about it as we bring on new stuff. We got another person starting here soon in May. We just merged with Direct Connect out of Indy, so that's a big step for us moving forward. But it's constant growth. I mean, I talk with these guys. This leadership team. They're younger. This company's about where we were when I kind of moved to the role that I was in over there. So it's been nice. I've been able to like give a little advice here and there, but also, be very, very humble on, coming in, because every company is different. So, at my old company, I made a ton of decisions. I did all this. I was involved in everything and whatnot. And I come in here and I just told myself, just be humble, listen to what's going on. These guys are on a path that I was on before. And I know that it was something that I can help with, but the nice part is I don't have to deal with it, all of it. So it's like I got my own lane. I can stay focused. I don't have to wear one hat. I don't have to be all over the place. And it's been really nice. And they're just really, really good people, especially the leadership. I mean, the owners and the VPs and all this, the president, they're good dudes, man. And they approach things from a human standpoint. They get it. And it's part of why they're growing. It's because of how they're handling everything.
Well, cool, man. That sounds great over there. Hey, let's check in with you here in a few months or so, see how everything's going. I'm sure you guys will be crushing it with your leadership and all that. But hey, before we get off real quick, so for everybody listening, everybody that rewatches this or whatever, watch this at the end of the day. So if you had one tip for somebody getting into freight brokering or sales, or you cradle to grave, right? Are y'all cradle to grave or just?
No, we still have, we're still split Chicago style. Yeah.
Okay,
I started
cool.
cradle to grave, but yeah.
I got you. So somebody's coming in as a freight sales, logistics sales, whatever you guys call it over there. What's one tip you'd give to them?
Be okay with starting out blind. I mean, be okay with working blind. I always tell people, it's like, you're going to just, if as long as you're pushing forward and constantly doing something and moving forward, stuff just lands in your lap. I mean, like, it's just part of it. I mean, I feel like the logistics industry is like, you walk into a tunnel, that dark tunnel, right? There's a light at the end of the tunnel, but you've got a blindfold on, right? I mean, you can't see it because you're not sure exactly how to even get there. But I'm telling you, if you keep moving forward, you're going to bump into things. You're going to run into stuff that you never even thought you would, but you're constantly moving forward. You may go on a 2-week drought and not hearing back from anybody. And then that next Monday you come in, all of a sudden you got an email from somebody. It's huge. So like it's just one of those things that like you never know when it's going to happen. It's hard. That's a hard thing to do for people because like they get discouraged very easily. But like, if I could tell you one thing, it's that like, whenever I felt like I was like starting to slump or not going anywhere, I just kept moving forward and something pop up right in front of me.
Sure. Hey, you just got to choke up on the bat and make contact, right? That's all you got to do.
Yep.
Well, hey, man, I really appreciate you coming on. When you get your other podcasts up and rolling, if you need a guest, hit me up. I'd be more than happy to come on and do my fair share of talking as well. I just wanted to do a bunch of listening today and hear your story. So best of luck to you. Get out there and crush it, and we'll talk to you soon, all right?
I appreciate it, man. Thanks.
All right. See you, TJ. Bye, man.
Yeah.